Oh, I forgot to do the thing. All right, I will transition in just a second. Welcome. Hey guys. Here we go. All right. Hey guys, I'm Ray, and we are streaming blacksmithing. Welcome, guys. Hello. Today is Wednesday. Man, this week is flying by. I feel like yesterday flew in a flash, and it was just, yeah. I felt like I did nothing and everything yesterday. So, I don't know. It's just been one of those weeks so far already. Hey, Corwin. How are we doing? Alrighty. So, today we are going to continue to kind of give ourselves a little bit of a skill checkup. And we finished our fork on Monday. So let me grab that. Man, dropping already. So this is the fork that we finished on Monday. And I don't know, I think it looks pretty good. It definitely needs a lot of cleanup work. It's stainless steel for one, and you definitely can't tell that because of all of the forge scale on here, right? So yeah, there is a lot of cleanup work, but overall, I think it turned out pretty good. This is the fork that we made last year, and we can kind of compare the two of these. This one it's a lot cleaner and stuff, but it's a lot simpler. This took a lot more forging and metal manipulation than this one did. So yeah. Hey Jack. We're kind of comparing the two at the moment. So, but overall, I think this one is going to turn out a little bit better than this one is once it gets all nice and cleaned up. I think your taper to handle on the new fork is more pleasing. I agree. I think that the visual profile and the weight of the scroll at the end and the tines is a lot more pleasant than this guy. So I don't know. Like I said, I think this one's an improvement. So, let's see what we can do with our spoon. So I have another 3-inch piece of stainless steel that we're going to turn into a spoon. I think we're going to keep on with the theme that we had before, and we're going to do a really long taper for the handle, and then we'll do the bowl of the spoon. So we're going to do a 2-inch taper and turn it into maybe 8 inches, which is what we did for the fork. And we're going to leave 1 inch for the bowl of the spoon. So let's turn on the forge. Now, I did not change the propane, so this is still kind of an empty tank. However, I have a brand new tank that we can change to if, for whatever reason, we end up losing pressure. So I've got a brand new tank that we can change to. I always think that I have everything that I need for a project, and then I always forget something. And the tongs were that thing today. All right, so let's put this guy in the forge. Try and heat it up a bit. And I think I'm gonna grab a pair of scroll tongs because they're nice and small. Goodness gracious. There's another drop, guys. Another drop. Put these over here so I can grab that piece of stock out of the mini forge, because the bigger tongs they don't go in the opening very well. So I need something to pull it out to the point where I can grab it with these tongs. What'd I do? Where to go? Oh, it's behind the press. I'm not gonna grab it right now. All right, so I think I'm gonna do most of this guy by hand. Last time on Friday when we started the fork, I started by using the press. So I think I'm going to just do this whole thing by hand. But yeah, you get a freebie since the counter wasn't reset. Yeah, that works. I mean, we could have reset the counter, but yeah. Okay, let me grab my headphones so I can hear myself and I don't have to shout nearly as loud. So we've got an ad that's going to be coming up any moment now. The timer, like there's always a countdown that pops up, and it'll count down the time that, till the next commercial. So our first initial commercial should be playing shortly. So it's going to take a little bit of time for our stainless steel to heat up anyway, so I think we'll be good. But yeah. Hey, Shelly, welcome to the stream. But yeah, so we are currently going to be working on probably mostly the handle of the spoon. I'm planning about 2 days for this project because it took about 2 days to do that fork. So the idea is to finish the spoon by Friday. And I'll repeat that because the ad just started. I never know when is safe to like start a conversation or start a sentence, because like when it never tells me exactly when it's going to show up. So I don't know. But yeah. So yeah, we're going to start here on the anvil, and then later on I'm going to have to grab the swage block because when we go to create the bowl of the spoon, I'll need the swage block. We've learned a lot about the swage block recently, from doing all of the bells in December or in November, and then also from doing some of the armor. So I'm hoping that I can figure out how to make the bowl a little bit nicer this time. That is my main goal for improving of the spoon, is to improve the bowl shape. So, yep. We've done quite a bit of improvement on the handle shape of the fork, so I think I'm just going to do the same handle for the spoon as we had on the fork. But yeah, that leaves the bowl as the area for improvement. And like I was mentioning when the commercial was going on, I think that I've learned quite a bit about using the swage block. There are some dimples in the swage block that they never really made amazing sense to me. And after we started working on those jingle bells last December, I think I understand it a little bit better. So hopefully I'll be able to shape the bowl really nicely. We shall see. We shall see. So I am going to start with the rounding hammer. This is going to be what I'm going to use to taper the handle on this spoon. And then once we start working on the bowl, I'm going to completely change hammers and we're going to go back to the cross peen. The cross peen has a lovely, the cross edge, and that's going to help us widen out the bowl and shape it very nicely. So multiple tools. I'm not going to be just using one tool. Hey, Rabbit Scotsman. Hello, hello. So today we are going to be working on a spoon. So we finished our fork on Monday, and I think it turned out pretty good. So now I want to do a second piece of this particular set, and we're going to do a spoon. I have a piece of 3-inch stainless steel in the forge right now, getting hot, and we are going to draw out the handle to start with. I want to have a matching set, so we're going to try and draw out the 2 inches, or 2 of the inches of the 3-inch piece into 8 inches in length. So yeah, we'll see how this works. If I can do a good enough job by hand. Which, I mean, I feel like I did a good enough job by hand before. I think that on Friday when we were using the press, it just was not squishing well enough. The stainless is a lot harder than mild steel. Mild steel is a low carbon construction steel for like girders and things like that. It's a lot softer than stainless steel. Stainless steel is, however, softer than the A2 that we've been making tools out of recently. So, I have a question for you guys. I told you guys in the beginning of this project that we were going to do a fork, knife, and a spoon. And so we just finished up the fork. I'm starting the spoon now. Do you guys actually want to see a knife? I feel like the knife is the poor cousin a little bit. It's just not quite as cool. I can still do it, and I will still do it if you guys would like to see it. But I have also considered doing like some other projects. Like one of the projects that I'd like to do is I would like to make a ladle. That's a project that we haven't done at all. And that'll probably be one of the next couple because I need some shorter projects. I also have, Corwin sent me all of that spring, the coil spring. And I want to turn some of that coil spring into a set of chisels and punches. I also want to do a blacksmith's knife with some of that coil spring. So that's kind of a smattering of different project ideas for the next few streams starting next week. Would you guys like me to skip the knife for this silverware set, the flatware set? Or would you like me to do the knife and then start on some of these other projects? That is my question for you guys. I feel like if I use the coil spring and make a blacksmith's knife, then you guys get to see me do like grinding and finishing and stuff like that. Whatever you prefer. I don't see. That's why I asked you guys, because I don't know. Part of me is like, do the knife, the butter knife for this set, because it won't be a complete set if you don't. But then there's another part of me that's like, I need to do more different jobs because I only have a couple of video ideas left for YouTube, or I guess finished filming for YouTube, and I need to make some more videos. But I don't know. I think I'm going to do the knife. I think I should do the knife. And then we will continue. We'll catch up later for YouTube. It's like one of those things where if I were to talk to the butler and pose this question to the butler would tell me to do the knife, because the butler always tells me to go the extra mile and don't be lazy. And I feel like skipping the knife would be the lazy way out, So I think I need to do the knife. I think I need to do the knife. Man, today was kind of weird. I started the day and I was editing the trivet video when we did the trivet a few weeks ago. And so I got really into editing. Hey, Mahalo, welcome to the stream. So yeah, I got really into editing, and time always flies by when I'm editing because I'm moving time in the timeline, and then I just get really involved in it. And I looked down and it was getting real late, and I knew I needed to get propane because I wasn't sure I'm not sure if we'll be able to finish the piece or the stream with that propane. And I wanted to make sure that I covered my bases. And so I went and I was like, oh, I need to go and get propane. So I went and I got in the car and I started pulling out of the driveway before I realized I didn't have the tank. I tried to leave the house to buy another propane exchange without the tank. To the lessen the amount of grinding needed, you could do the blacksmith knife with forge to finish bevels. Then you just need to grind the cutting edge. And I mean, I will do that for the blacksmith knife, because that's kind of how I make my blacksmith knives. Typically, I can do a lot nicer and prettier of a blade if I grind in the bevels, but we'll see. We'll see. Hey, Sandwich, welcome to the stream. So I don't know. Like I said, I think I'm going to do the butter knife to go with this flatware set before I do the blacksmith knife. I guess butter knife does not have to be crazily sharp. It usually isn't crazy sharp. Usually a butter knife is deliberately designed to be good at spreading as opposed to have a sharp blade for cutting. A lot of the butter knives that we have in our house have nice serrations, so we end up cutting steak with it because usually the butler makes the steak pretty juicy, and it's really nice and soft, so I can actually get through the steak with the butter knife and I don't have to use a steak knife. But you know, I think for our knife for this flatware set, I think it's going to be more designed for spreading. How is our piece doing? As I drop it out of the... Man, it's going to be one of those days, guys. It's going to be one of those days. I don't know that that counts as dropping because it didn't leave the tongs until I let it go. I don't know. Yeah, my brain is a little bit loopy today, so we shall see. The goal is not to hit 3 strikes today. The goal is to finish at least the handle on this spoon. Good. All right. Do we want to use these ones or do we want to use the bigger ones? I don't know. So how have you guys been doing the last couple of days? I kind of told you a little bit about what I've been doing. Like I said, I was editing, or earlier today, I was editing the trivet video. Well, all day yesterday, I was also editing the trivet video. So yes, it's been all trivets for me. I hardly managed to get meat really soft, just as I have been trying to get fish sticks crunchy on the outside. No dice. They will be soft always. See, we have a toaster oven, and then we also have one of those air fryer things. So we usually do like French fries in the air fryer. We're not big fish stick people. But we do have like the French fries, and when you put them in just straight up in the microwave, the French fries tend to be all squishy and stuff. But the air fryer is awesome with them. We can start a son of a dang it counter for all the things that aren't drops. Maybe. Is that what we should do? I mean, maybe I do need a little bit more audience participation. We can add that if you guys think that would be fun to keep track of all of the almost drops or the, near misses. Corbin says, fortunately been productive forging the past couple of nights. Ooh, I saw some of the stuff that you posted on Facebook yesterday, and that's always awesome to be able to get out into the shop. Okay, I wouldn't have thought of this, but this stuff into the microwave. I cook fish sticks in a pan. See, that's probably the smarter way to do that. But when I was a kid, I had to make my own fish sticks. And so I would just nuke them in the microwave and stick them in mayonnaise. I didn't even have tartar sauce sometimes. I don't know if it was that I didn't like tartar sauce or if I didn't have, or if I couldn't find any tartar sauce. I don't remember that specifically. As far as steaks, see, I'm not very good at making steaks. Like, I always end up burning the outside and making it really tough on the inside. But the butler has somehow managed to do, or to get really good at it. But I also think that part of it is we do a lot of different styles of steak too. So it's not, we don't just grill the steak. Sometimes we like marinate our steaks, and a lot of times that helps with getting the nice juicy center. Alrighty, we've got hot steel, so let's do our first heat. Okay, I'm gonna put there. A friend of mine wants steak burnt on the outside and raw on the inside. Not quite my taste though. I think it would be possible to do that, but I think it'd be challenging. You know, you'd almost have to like sear the outside of it with a really high heat. All right. Smells like, oh, I know what's happening. All right, we're gonna put this back in the heat. Yummy. I had no idea that was there. All right, so apparently there is a blue propane cap right next to the mailbox, and it's starting to warm up and it smells really bad. Sear at forging heat. That would be a really, really hot sear. Definitely a really hot sear. You know what? I forgot to turn the record function on my. It'll be all right though. Goodness. But yeah, searing it. See, you guys always ask me if I cook in the forge, or I guess that's one of those common questions that I get a lot. Maybe not from you guys, but a lot of different people ask me about cooking in the forge, and every time it's like, it's so possible, but I feel like it would be really dirty. Hey Jack, welcome to the stream. I don't know. Do you guys think I should cook something in the forge? Like I said, I think it would be too dirty. I did that once. Steak was pretty good, was it? Hey Miramac, thanks for that lurk. Yeah, so I don't know. You guys, have any of you guys who are blacksmiths, have you guys cooked in your forge or on your forge? Ashy char on the outside, frozen in the middle, right? Like a fish stick. Ah. That's totally how it would be, right? Really cold or frozen in the middle. I wonder if you would almost have to freeze your steak in order to be able to like not burn it into a brick of carbon in the forge. Because I mean, the forge is so hot that you stick it inside the forge, you might actually set it on fire. Maybe. That, or you'd like blow it up, it'd get like all puffy and stuff, because all of the moisture it would rapidly expand into steam. I don't know. It was cooked through completely sous vide. I just slid it in the forge to sear. I could see that. That do sound good. Like I said, I feel like it's just too dirty out here in my shop. Maybe you guys keep your shops cleaner than I do. My entire floor is just covered in like dusty scale. Cause like, you know, the scale comes off of the steel and then you start stepping on it and then it's all brittle. So it turns into dust. So there's always like a thin layer of dust everywhere in here. I need a sweep. That's the trick to deep frying cheese curds. Start with frozen cheese. Ice cream too. Yeah, we used to do some crazy stuff when I used to work at the grocery store. Crazy stuff. Like I think we did fried Twinkies once, and we did a few other things. And then when I worked at the pizza place, I worked at Emo's Pizza. We had, or like, there's a St. Louis special called toasted ravioli, and it's basically breaded and fried ravioli squares. And I know it's kind of sacrilegious to, you know, Europeans to fry, you know, raviolis because, you know, it's like supposed to be delicate noodles and stuff. But we used to wrap those in bacon and fry them. They were so delicious. Iowa State Fair has fried almost everything on a stick, even deep fried butter. I've seen that too. And I've seen deep fried ice cream, but I feel like you get the ice cream at a lot of times. Isn't fried ice cream like a Mexican restaurant thing? I don't know if it's actually a Mexican thing, but I get it at the Mexican restaurant. Man, it always comes back to food with you guys. We talk about food a lot here on the stream, but that's all right because, you know, it's over like the stream starts around lunchtime here in my time zone, I guess. And so, you know, late lunch. And I mean, I usually eat before the stream, but sometimes I don't eat a lot. So Corwin's hungry. All right, let's do another heat. Let's work off some calories. All right, I think the nose of this is pretty good for the moment. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the horn and do some aggressive tapering. All right, back in the heat. How we doing? Okay, we're doing all right. I just gotta monitor the gauge or the gas gauge because when it starts to lower, the needle starts to lower. That's when I know I'm gonna need to change the tank. I wonder if a blacksmith has ever taken pre-workout before forging. There are actually a lot of blacksmiths that do that, and it is very much recommended to do some sort of stretching or, you know, breathing exercise, a little bit of pre-workout, because if you're doing a lot of hand forging, you know, it's definitely going to be a lot easier on your body if you do. Oh, you mean the supplement drink? Okay. I don't know. I don't know that I know a lot of health food addict blacksmiths, but, you know, you never know. I legitimately sing the praise of yoga. Yes, man, yoga is amazing, right? I was the strongest I've ever been when I was in college. I took a yoga class, and That semester, I was the strongest and felt the best of my life. Well, I always tell myself that I'm going to get back into yoga one of these days, but you know, and especially child pose for stretching your shoulder before you start forging. Yeah. I like the big or the stretch poses. Be anything that works like your shoulders, your elbow, and your hands and wrist would be really good to make sure that you're ready to blacksmith. Greetings, Ping. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining us. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know what's in pre-workout. Is it just like protein? Like I've seen protein shakes, but I don't know what's actually in like pre-workout. I could also imagine that maybe if it's not protein, is it like carbs? Would it be carb loading? I don't know. Caffeine and some other stuff. Okay. I do drink a lot of caffeine before I forge. A lot of times, though, the reason that I drink a lot of caffeine in general is because my hands shake. I'm so addicted to the caffeine that it just like it takes the handshakes away. 38 Fahrenheit. Is that what it is for you, Ping? It was 40 last I checked here. Knowing myself, I would rather need instead a workout. TM. Instead of workout. I mean, I always use the excuse that I've been working out in the shop in order to avoid going to the gym with the butler. I won't lie. I get really nice and tired by the time I'm finished. Yeah, nice, but it feels nice in the shop. Yeah, it is. It's pretty nice. I do have 2 sweatshirts on. I've got the lined one, and then I've got a regular sweatshirt on underneath. So I'm hoping that eventually I'll get a chance to pull one of them off. But, you know, I think there's some B vitamins and metabolism boosters. Oh, I definitely do not need metabolism boosters. It is everything I can do to feed my metabolism. I can't help but, I don't know. My metabolism just never, it was really fast when I was a kid, and it slowed down a little bit, but not that much. Not that much. All right. So I've got about 2.5 minutes until the next ad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one more heat, and hopefully I beat the ad. I think after the next heat, I'm going to change the camera angle just so I can get a little bit closer up to the horn. We're gaining a pretty good amount of length there. So that's really nice. All right, more heat. Alrighty, and I'm gonna move this camera so I can make sure we got some variety for both you guys and so that I don't get bored when I'm editing this later on this month. The plan is to combine both the fork, knife, and the spoon, or I guess all 3 of them, into one video for YouTube. so that I can talk a little bit more about what we've been doing and how we've been growing in our blacksmith journey. So yeah. We shall see. I might actually divide them. Is the fork already done, or did you turn it into a spoon? We finished the fork on Monday. So we've got the 2 tines and we've got this lovely scroll here. So yeah, we finished it. I do need to do a little bit of cleanup. This is actually stainless steel, but it doesn't look like stainless steel. It's got a lot of forged scale on it. So I gotta take it to the grinder and do a little bit of grinding and a lot of wire wheeling. Hey, Blue Red Metal, welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, the plan is to do the fork, knife, and the spoon in one video because I've done an individual video for a fork, a knife, and a spoon. But I don't know. It depends on how long it takes us to do the spoon and the knife. I would have kind of expected the curl turned by 90 degrees. I don't know. I could. I really wanted it to be like visually the same weight. I don't know. You kind of hold it like this. So I don't know. Maybe if you had a large hand, it would be interfering, but I think it's all right. Maybe I should have turned it 90 degrees. It's a pretty big fork with a really long handle, but I have small hands, so what I think is big might actually not be that big. I got these eaty hands. But yeah. So once this ad is done, I think we should have enough heat that we should be able to do another round of forging. So yeah. All right. Let's see. Where is the best place to put the inset? We're going to be spending a lot of time on the anvil horn, so I think I'm going to put it over there. All right, I'm going to put this back in the heat because it's starting to bounce on me and I'm going to end up dropping it if I'm not careful. And I'm trying not to drop things as much as possible. So let's get more heat. I put my mic on the wrong space, I think. Let me move it down a little. I feel like every time my hair moves onto this side, it covers the mic. Do you ever mark your pieces with initials or a personal symbol? I personally, right now I don't, right? But that's because I don't actually have a touch mark. I have a design for a touch mark, but I have to get it, or I have to order it. And I always forget. When I actually have money to do things like that, I end up, I'm very instant gratification. And so if I need something else, I'll get that first because I have to order something and then I have to wait for it and stuff. So yeah, I have a design for one. I just haven't ordered it yet. But it's also like I don't sell any of my work, and I haven't started giving it away. So when I do start doing that, I will need to have a touch mark so that, people know that I made it, But I feel like I'll get there when I get there. We've done a lot of projects throughout the year that we've been streaming together, but I haven't quite gotten to the point where we are flooded or, running out of space to put them yet. You are dropping some frames once in a while, I think. Yeah, my internet's been a little bit slow lately. We had a giant snow and ice storm, and they've been going around and doing some repair work on the lines. So I think there's a little bit of static. I need to start cycling the router before I stream. I apologize for that. I will make sure that I cycle I will try to remember, because I probably, there will be a time that I will forget to cycle it, but I'll do my best. Let me check. We've got 2,143 drop frames this stream so far in 42 minutes. How are we doing on pressure? It is starting to drop a little bit. I'll probably change that soon-ish. All right, let's do another heat. There's a bend starting to form in this handle, and I want to make sure that I don't exacerbate it as I continue to go. All right, more heat. Yeah, I think I'm going to change the propane real fast, just because it's starting to bop on me, or I guess pop. All right, let's do this real fast. And what did I do with that? I did that. Yeah, I probably should have done this before I started the stream. All right. Start her up again. All right. Should be a lot more reliable now. All right. I think I need to move the camera a little when I'm doing that. It looks like, I don't think you guys can see me while I guess I didn't think about that. Shogun the Master, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. I hope you're having fun. I know I am. So once this piece gets hot again, after I switch to the propane containers, we will do our next few heats. We're getting pretty close to the width at the very end of the tail that I want to get. And the position of the tongs is making it a little bit more challenging to get closer to the neck of where the spoon is going to meet the handle. So I think we're going to, shortly, we're going to turn it over so that we can make sure that we get a nice even handle width. Once we get the handle completed, what we're going to do is we are going to start shaping the bowl of the spoon. I think that the fork is usually a lot more challenging than spoons and knives, so there is actually a chance that we will be able to get pretty darn far on the spoon. We might even be able to finish the spoon at the beginning of next stream. I still am not going to count on being able to finish the spoon in one day. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I am planning on continuing the spoon on Friday. Hopefully we can start the knife on Friday as well. We're getting there. We're moving metal. It's going a lot faster than when I was using the press. I'm not entirely sure why. Oh, you know, I should have told you guys that my next video on YouTube came out today at 10 a.m. It is the video for the flat jaw tongs that we made. We made a set of flat jaw tongs so that we could hold sheet metal for making armor several weeks ago. And so I edited up all of that footage and I posted it up on YouTube this morning. And so that's there for you guys to check out. Hopefully you enjoy it. I've been trying to up my game a little bit. So a lot of times when you guys, or when we're talking here on stream, we make some jokes and quips and things like that. I tend to edit those out for my edited videos. And I've started putting some of those back in. I feel like some of the videos, they're starting to get visually interesting, but I kind of feel like my dialogue is a little bit boring in them sometimes. So I'm trying to spice things up a little bit. Hopefully you enjoy the videos. I don't know what's better, you know, the streams that we have live so that we can like talk back and forth, or the videos. Probably the streams. I enjoy the streams a lot more. Spicy dialogue, not necessarily, just a few jokes here and there. Like I added in the a joke about rivets to the trivet video because we're riveting trivets. And I added that there, and then I added a couple of like just different quips that we made from the back and forth for the tong video. I heard spice things up, so are we going to start forging in a volcano? I mean, I don't know. Volcanoes are pretty spicy. We do have some family near a volcano. I don't know. April 1st is coming soon. Almost time for a drop montage, right? I'll have to go and find some drops. I left one of the drops in on the trivet video, but it was like a pair of tongs dropped off of the swage block while I was in the middle of riveting something. So, I mean, it was inevitable that that drop was there. So, I don't know. If there were frogs, they'd be riveting rivets into trivets. Exactly. Rivet, rivet. All right, let's do another heat. Ooh, it's getting real hot. But yeah, I kind of want to add in a little bit more interest. And I'm not nearly as fun or funny as like Alex Steele or, you know, some of the other people. But I try to do some stuff. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that length right now. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn this over and start working on the section between where I want the bowl and the handle to meet. So we're gonna start working on this little block right there. You need more caffeine to be like Alec. I know, right? And then Will Stutler, his videos are kind of funny too. He makes quite a few jokes and things. See, I think that I need to add a few more of our dad jokes. You know, we've got an entire channel in the Discord of just dad jokes. So I don't know, maybe we just need to add a few more of those in there. Sprinkle them in there. Maybe not a lot, but a couple here and there. But yeah, I'm definitely not as energetic as Alec. I also don't really want to like steal their gimmicks, you know, because they have, that's kind of what they're known for, is their boyish antics and their like silliness. And I want to be fun and enjoyable to watch, but I don't want to steal their gimmick. So we'll just have to come up with our own. I tried to read the alphabet in bed, but I couldn't finish. I got up to P. It's less funny when I read it than, you know, when you see it, because you know, you got the capital letter P and not, you know, going to the bathroom. That's what, you know, there's an entire genre of internet jokes that are only funny when you look at them, right? You can't tell those jokes out loud because, you know, they just don't work that way. It's like, I think, isn't there a joke that's like, what is that one? What's the difference between a plumber and a physicist? And it's how they pronounced unionized or unionized. You just can't say that joke. You have to read it. So, yeah. So I have to be a little bit careful which ones I pick to put into the videos, because, you know, you guys aren't going to be reading them. I'm going to be saying them. We're getting a lot more heat from this brand new tank. I'm really excited about that. We're going to move a lot more metal this way. And it's going to be a little bit brighter to look at. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. I'm going to move the camera so we can get a little bit different of view. We're going to move it right in front of my monitor, I think. Sometimes I try this and sometimes it doesn't work the way I want it to because, there we go. Maybe that'll work a little better. There we go. I used to be addicted to soap, but then I got clean. See, that one's fun. There's some fun ones out there, you know? All right, let's do another heat. Let me make sure that I've got a decent place to put the inset so you guys can see what I'm doing. Let's see, am I getting this out of here? Ooh, I got it. I grabbed it by the tail. That's good. All right, more heat. We're starting to get a little bit more length. That's exciting. I'm going to do a thing, and it's going to end up being a little bit sad. All right, let's see. That's what I want. All right, I am adjusting some settings on the camera, and it's going to look a little bit weird, I think. It'll look fine for you guys, but it'll look a little bit weird in my edited video, I think. But that's all right, because I've got some color correction I've got to do, or that I can do. All righty. A little bit longer and we'll do another heat. I just want to make sure that I've got a nice warm, or not warm, a nice hot piece of steel. So, yeah. I don't think that we're actually going to get to the bowl, but we might. I don't know. We might. We might get to the bowl today. Fingers crossed and all that. All right, let's do another heat. Okay. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that length for the bowl. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to start thinning out the rest of the steel so that we've got a nice long handle on there. We've got a lot more thickness in this one than we had on this side, so we've got plenty of length that we can get out of it. So I'm pretty excited. Just gotta keep on keeping on. Seems like the forge is tuned a little better today. I think part of it is because like I changed the propane tank, so it's a lot stronger and the pressure is very even and stable. On Monday, we were using a used tank, or like some tanks that were a little bit lower. And when the tank starts to empty, the pressure starts to go down. So yeah, I think we've got nice high pressure. I am a little bit concerned about this particular tank for later on like day 3, maybe later than that even. Because when I picked up the tank from the cage, I heard some tinkling in the bottom, right? So when you get a propane exchange, it comes as a liquid inside of the container, right? And if you can hear a tinging sound as it shakes around in the bottom, that's usually rust, right? So you got to be a little bit careful, because as the tank starts to empty, you get a little bit of, there's always a chance that rust will come out with the gas. So that it's going to clog up all of the orifices and things like that within the burner. And so I always try to get a tank that doesn't have rust in the bottom, but I did not get to pick the tank this time. The person who was helping me exchange just picked up the first one that they saw, and so we're gonna have to be a little bit careful towards day 3. Yeah, a fresh tank could do that. Yes, definitely helps a lot. So we've got an ad starting in about 3 minutes. So I'm going to do another heat. And then once the ad is done, we'll do another. Oops. All right, back in the heat. Hey, Lexi. Welcome to the stream. Maybe it was just a bit of frozen propane. It could have been frozen propane, but when I picked it up to change it, I also had that tinging sensation. So I think it's just rust in the bottom. I've had rust in the bottom of a few before. That's what I was thinking, but the freezing temp for propane is negative 44 degrees. I hope it wasn't part of the safety. It's not part of the safety valve. So when I shake the propane tank, I get like a sense of how big it is. And it's probably a sheet of like rust that's about yay big around, floating around moving around in the bottom. That happens when people leave them out on their barbecue grills, like over the winter time or whatever. They start rusting in the bottom. You get moisture in there sometimes, and they go through them, but sometimes there's just they just use them because the valve is fine. So Lexi, when I said that you were the one that invited me to that group on Instagram, they were like, "Who's Lexi? Do you prefer Alexis? Because if you prefer Alexis, I'll just call you Alexis." I want to call people by their preferred names, and sometimes when I make them up, they're just like really long or not the preferred name. So if I call you something weird and you would prefer something else, let me know. All right, so I have no idea when this ad is going to start. So once the ad is over, I'm going to do my next heat. We are still thinning out the handle. I want to get a little bit more length so we can get a really nice scroll on the end of the spoon. Then we'll flip it over and start building up and widening out the spoon bowl. Oh, and you know what? It probably cut off the last couple words of that sentence. It always does that to me. I just want to have like a few last words, and then the ad always pops up. All right, let me check the camera one more time. And since I'm here, I'm just gonna like move it again. Just for some variety. Maybe I'll move it forward. Can I bring it down far enough? That'll work. It might actually be in the wide though. Hopefully it's not. Oh, but it isn't. Yeah, we're good. It's not in the wide, but I got it nice and close. So hopefully it gives you guys a nice view. All right. Let's do another heat now that the ad is over. And I think I'm going to put it up here. Yeah, that's probably going to be the best bet. All right, more heat. Getting quite a bit of length. It's exactly what I want to see. But yeah, so the new tank is giving us a lot more pressure on the propane and in the forge, so we're getting a much hotter piece of steel. So we'll definitely get the handle done today. Have you considered an induction forge, or is it a bit bourgeoisie? I suppose having some rest between beatings is nice. I do need a lot of rest between heats because I I have a lot of breathing problems. As far as an induction forge, they're really, really expensive. And then they also take a lot of power. So I just don't have the funding to be able to support an induction forge right now. Maybe sometime in the future, you know, when the channel starts making a little bit more money, you know, I'm not opposed to an induction forge, especially because I learned that if you hit the piece of steel on the coil, it doesn't like shock you, or it's not dangerous necessarily. It's just, you know, it creates magnetic fields that excite the atoms inside of or I guess the molecules inside of the steel, and so therefore it's not dangerous per se. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to have one, you know, because it's sometimes it's hard to get a hold of fuels, and electricity is oftentimes available. Once she bets that nuclear reactor finish, once she gets that nuclear reactor finished, she's gonna have a full room of them. I mean, maybe. But I feel like if I had a nuclear reactor, I think I'd be making a lot of money from just providing my neighbors power, you know, instead of the power bill that they have currently. They can hook up onto my nuclear power plant, and then, you know, I will be getting the money. Although I don't think I'm smart enough to run one. Don't you have to be like specially trained? Just seems like a bad idea for someone untrained to run. I guess that's what hiring people is for. You got to hire the right people to run your nuclear reactor. All right, let's do another heat. I cracked the tip right there. Not sure if it's all the way through or if it's just a little. Nope, it's all the way through. I cracked it right there. All right, that's fine. Let's fix it before it gets worse. It'll last the rest of the neighborhood's life, right? The rest of the neighborhood's life until I accidentally cause a nuclear, you know, event. There it went. All right, I've got my hot cut. We are going to cut the tip of the spoon off. That way we can get rid of the crack that has formed on the tail end. Let me grab my tape measure too. I want to kind of see how long this guy is. We need a little bit of extra material than we would need for the tongs of the fork, so the spoon might be a little bit on the shorter side. But the tail of the fork was about 8 inches. This is a imperial measurement or tape measure, so I don't have a metric tape measure. All right, let's cut off that end real fast. You know what? Let's do that one. That way you'll be able to see a little bit easier when I cut this off. All right, where are we at? About there. All right, more heat. We've cut that end off, so it should be good to go. Let's measure this real fast. This is a lot thinner, a lot smaller. We are only at 5 inches right now. So we're gonna need to gain a little bit more length. But we have a little bit of girth right here that we can turn into length. So let's do that. Right. So part of me, when I cut this piece of steel, I was wondering if I should have cut it a little bit longer. So when I made the fork, I actually started with 3 inches of stainless steel, but I knew I was going to need more material for the bowl than I did for the tongs of the fork. So I don't know, maybe I should have made it a little bit longer. We'll see. We shall see. I mean, this whole thing is like a checkup, to see how much I have learned throughout our time streaming together. So, you know, I guess if I mess up, then, you know, that's something else I get to learn, right? And then next year, when we make another set of flatware, we'll be able to see our improvement across every year, you know? I kind of want to do a checkup every year or so, or every so often, so that we can kind of check to see how well or how much we're learning and how much we're getting better as we go. If nothing else, I want to make sure that I am increasing my skill level, you know, whether that's, you know, an RPG term or not. I want to learn and grow as a blacksmith, and I want to take you guys on that journey with me. So like I said, this is a growth checkpoint. And so, you know, if I screw up, I screw up, right? All right, let's do another heat. All right, more heat. My nose is starting to run a little bit. Let me take care of that so you're not watching me sniffle and whatnot. There we go. So yeah, I'm almost done with the handle. So I think what we're gonna do is we're probably gonna do one more heat and then, or on the handle, and then we will spend a little bit of time on the bowl. I'm gonna widen it out kind of shape it a little bit before we dome it out. Then after that, we will spend a little bit more time on the handle, probably on Friday. We've got about an hour left in the stream, or an hour and 10 minutes left, so we've got plenty of time. But there's still a part of me that's like, I don't think we're gonna make it. Maybe I'll surprise myself, but I don't think we're gonna make it. All right, let's do another heat. All right. Let's check our length again. We are at 5.5 inches in length. And we've got plenty of length on the handle. Now we just need the decorations length. So I don't know. I think I should have made it a little bit longer. I think I started with less material than I needed for this project. But we'll see. We'll see if I can fix it. I think it's going to depend. We're going to get rid of it, or not get rid of this handle, but we are going to change hammers. That's what I'm trying to say. We're going to change hammers and use our cross peen. So I'm going to try and gain some of the length that we lost with the cross peen. And we'll see. We'll see what I can do. So I think that the next couple of heats we're going to be working on the bowl, shaping it up, thinning it out a little bit, and then widening it. All right, let me move the camera again. Hey, Bubba, welcome to the stream. So we're going to get a little bit of more length on the bowl by tapering out the tip of it a little bit. I want to round that out. Right now we've got some pretty hard corners at the top of the bowl of the spoon because we haven't even started playing with it at all. So if I tuck those in, we should be able to get a much rounder bowl. We shall see how this goes, though. We shall see. Okay. We've got lots of heat. So let's try this. How's it gonna be? I think it should be all right. All right. I'm gonna have to upset these corners. I got a little bit of fish lipping going on, so I'm gonna heat this all up nicely so that I can make sure that I don't end up with a weirdness going on there. So we're gonna upset those back. Starting to shape the bowl, and I want to make sure that we shape it correctly, taking a little or as much time as we need to make sure that the bowl is nice and pretty. the whole point is to bring what we've learned from other projects to the forefront here. So yeah, I think we needed to deal with these fish lips first. I don't know. I'm starting to think that maybe I might be able to finish this. I think it depends on how long it takes me to finish this bowl. Or I guess shaping it anyway. I would like to see if I can't lose some of the length of the bowl and get it or regain it. Or I guess I'm hoping that I can shape the bowl to a point where it's a little bit shorter. Helene Faye is raiding in. Thank you so much for that raid. Welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. Hi, I'm Ray. I am a blacksmith. Today, what we are doing is we are making a stainless steel spoon. So I've been streaming here on Twitch for about a year, and one of the first projects that we made together on stream is a set of flatware, and I made them out of stainless steel. So this is the fork that we made last year, and we just finished yesterday working on this fork. So we've gone from making forks like these to making forks with a little bit more forge work. I have yet to do the grinding and cleanup work on this, so that's why it doesn't look all nice and shiny and stainless steel like this one does. But yeah, so we are now working on a spoon that matches this fork. So right now I'm heating up the steel, and we are going to start shaping the bowl of the spoon. So right now I just have a 1-inch block of the stainless steel, and we're going to turn that into a little round shape that, you know, looks like a flattened out spoon bowl. I've got a swage block, which is a block of steel that has a whole bunch of little divots and indents in it, specifically designed for ladles and spoon bowls and things like that. So we will be able to dome out the spoon as we go. And yeah, so we've got about an hour left in the stream, and we'll see how far we can get. If I don't finish today, I will finish at the beginning of the stream on Friday. So welcome, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you have fun. Tablespoon, teaspoon. I'm not sure yet. We shall see how much area I can gain from the little block of steel I've got. So we haven't gotten to the point where we're sizing it just yet. And I'm not good enough of a blacksmith to be able to predict that just yet. All right, let's do our another heat. Our first heat with our new friends. All right. So what I am currently doing is upsetting some corners because I want to make sure that I'm rounding out the tip of this before I start flattening it out. And that's going to make it a lot easier in the end. All right. So we've got a little bit of a dimple inside there, and that's definitely not what we want to see. But we're doing our best. So the work that we're doing right now is very delicate work. So we're not doing full forge blows right now. So I need to get some more heat on that so I can move that steel. So you'll see I'm doing really small hammer blows, really choked up on the hammer, and that's so that I can get a lot more control. I'm not looking for power right now, I'm looking for control. So upsetting is the process of hammering steel back into itself. So that is a thickening process, a widening process, whereas drawing out is the opposite. Drawing out is the blacksmith terminology or jargon for lengthening something, making it thinner and longer. Smacks with hammer, delicate work. I mean, you know. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. So I absolutely love answering questions and kind of explaining what I'm doing as I'm going. So if there's anything that you don't understand, anything that you're curious about, please don't hesitate to ask. You know, there are no dumb questions here. So yeah, gentle smacks. I mean, yeah, I get a lot of people who come in and they look at me and I'm doing some like lighter taps. And they're like, why aren't you using full forging blows? And, you know, it's just kind of, you got to calibrate, you know, based on what process you're doing. So, you know, you don't want to do a full forging, full force blow when you're trying to kind of shape things a little bit, you know? Yes, exactly. Love taps. All right. Let's do another heat. We've got plenty of heat in our steel. Once again, we're doing a little bit of upsetting. There is one corner here that's a little bit wider and further out than the rest. And that's kind of what I'm trying to take a look at right now. All right. So there is a whole community of people who are very particular about their spoons, about the shape and the balance and the feel of spoons. And I'm sorry to say that this spoon is not for them. This spoon is probably not going to be a very I mean, I hope it's aesthetically pleasing, but it's probably not going to, or it's probably going to have a few points here and there. I'll do what I can. How much gas do you go through per hour? That's a good question. So I use barbecue tanks, like the 20-pound barbecue pigs that you get at either your grocery store or the hardware store for grilling. And so I go through one of those in about a week, right? And I forge for somewhere between 7.5 to 9 hours, somewhere in there, every week. I always have a little bit left over in case I, you know, need to change tanks and I just don't have a tank to change to. But once we get done with that third day, it tends to be a little bit more difficult and there just isn't as much time left. So somewhere in the 9-hour range per tank. This forge is the little forge. I get many hours more than that. The 9 hours is on the big forge, the big guy. It may not have an aesthetic mouthfeel. Yes, that's probably what I mean. Yeah, that's probably what I mean. So I've got an ad break starting in about 1.5 minutes-ish. The countdown says 50 seconds, but it always is like somewhere between 15 and 30 seconds after the countdown ends as to when the ad starts. So I'm hoping that after the ad ends, we should be able to do another heat. Do you go through sharpening process for my spoons? I don't go through necessarily a sharpening process. I do go through a cleanup process that oftentimes includes grinding just because I want to make sure everything is nice and smooth and shaped correctly. But a lot of it also ends up being a sanding or, you know, a wire wheel. So I don't sharpen them necessarily because I'm not trying to stab people with spoons. I'm also not a very good, or I don't enjoy doing sharps. I do them sometimes, like knives and swords and things like that, but it's not my favorite thing in the world. I really hate grinding things. So I try to do projects that all I need to do is run them through the wire wheel and they clean up. All right. So once this ad is over, I have plenty of heat right now, but I want to make sure that everybody gets to see the next heat. So my plan for what we're going to do when I pull the steel out again is I'm going to start flattening the spoon bowl. We've got a block of steel right now. We're going to flatten it out and start making it thin and usable. All right. I'm going to move the camera just because I'm thinking about it, because we're in the middle of an ad and I do things like that. Because I try to be all fancy schmancy and stuff. Sometimes I'm fancy schmancy and sometimes I'm not. All right. I think we're good to go. Once this ad ends, my headphones are starting to bother me a little bit. After a while, you know, my safety equipment starts to grate on me. It's usually a good time to take a break, but I'm not ready for a break yet. I got about an hour for my next break. All right, let's do another heat. Now that everybody's back. Everybody's back. Okay. All right, so we've got a decent amount of thinness going on right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over the hammer, and we're going to start hammering with the cross peen. Got to be a little bit careful with this. Okay. Gotten a little bit of width. Not a lot, but some. All right. So I'm going to get some more heat, and we'll keep on keeping on. So this is a cross peen hammer. It's typically the type of hammer that you're going to see most blacksmiths using. So there is a wide, broad head on one end of it, and that actually will broaden out and squish the material all the way around in a circular area around that face, right? So if I turn around the cross peen, I have what is called the cross peen. And so this actually changes the squishing area, or the surface area that is squished. So it kind of creates an oblong area around the cross peen that squishes. So it squishes more up and down than side to side. So as I'm trying to widen out our spoon, that's why I'm using this section of the hammer. Like a roller pin. Yes, exactly. So a lot of another type of hammer is, a ball peen hammer. Peen refers to the face of the hammer, right? So this is a ball peen hammer. It's got a ball on the face of the hammer. So this one creates a much smaller round area that is squished. So we've got lots of different types of faces of hammers that do different things. So you got to make sure that you pick the right tool for the right job. Yep. All right, let's do another heat. We're going to start trying to widen this piece out, make it more spoon-like. I always end up angling the edges, and so I'm trying to kind of fix the angle as I'm going so that I don't mess up more. So I want to shape this spoon as I'm squishing it, as I'm widening it out. So I have this weird habit of holding my hammer at an angle, right? So one end of it gets squished out a lot more than the other end. And so I need to make sure that I am moving the hammer and correct. It did crash. And I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. My internet's been a little bit wonky ever since the snowstorm. We had a snowstorm a couple of weeks ago, and I've had some frame drops and things like that and disconnections. So I think what I need to start doing is refreshing or recycling my does that count as an ISP drop? I mean, if you want it to count, then it counts, You can put it in the drop. I'm not the one that dropped. That was the ISP, but yeah, I think what I need to do is cycle the internet or like the modem, and hopefully that'll help. Usually it does, but yeah, I think there's a little bit of static in my lines. So I need to be more aware of that, and I apologize. Hopefully it's a little bit better now that it, has settled. It is getting to be Gatorade o'clock, guys. I think I got about 2 more swigs of water left. All right, let's do another heat. I try not to be one of those streamers that you guys have to, redeem a channel points to get to drink water, All right, let's start on this side. All right. So let's focus in on these edges. I want to make sure that we are keeping a round profile as much as I possibly can. Whoops. Now there's a drop that you guys can count. That was totally me dropping the piece. All right. More heat. So I really want to start shaping the tip of the spoon a little bit. I want to broaden out the area of the spoon that's closer to the handle, and I want to thin out the area that is close or that is farther away. Feel like yes, Mahalo. I mean, regardless, you know, I dropped the piece, so you guys have a warrant for at least one exclamation point drop. At least, you know? Given your preference, do you think you would rather dish or raise the spoon? I prefer to dish I prefer to dish spoons. Normally I reserve raising for larger pieces of steel. And for those of you who may not be aware, Jack is referring to two different types of creating a rounded domed surface. So sinking is when you are hammering the interior of the dome, right? So like if you've got like a sinking bowl, you're hammering right into there. Whereas raising, you are hammering from the outside of the dome and creating a circular vessel shape. So they are both methods of creating domes, but opposite in their intent. I think I'm going to grab this guy because I'm going to focus a little bit on the interior edge, or I guess the bottom of the bowl a little bit for a moment. I want to see if I can't create some nice girth at the bottom. I ultimately ended up making a die for teaspoons because I'm not good enough to get the result I wanted by hand. I mean, that's definitely a way to do it. And if you're making a lot of them, it's probably the best way to do it. You're going to get a lot more consistent results that way. And here I'm doing this by hand because it's like I really want to test my own skill level. And so that's why I'm doing it by hand and the way I'm doing it. But yeah, if you're punching out a whole bunch of them because you want to sell them, yeah, 1,000% do it with a die. It's going to be easier and more consistent and prettier. Intent, you know? Intent. All right, we're going to focus in on these outside edges here a little bit. I want to widen these out. All right, that's better. All right, let's get some more heat. We're going to do one more heat with the ball peen. And then I'm going to start flattening these out a little bit more. We're going to widen it in total, or widen the whole thing. That's what I mean. There's another drop, guys. I feel like you guys are starting to be a little bit, yeah. I'm the one that's starting to drop things a little bit more. Learning how to make the curves you want with a hammer is invaluable. Yeah, and I mean, I'm the biggest proponent for learn the rules before you break them. And I know that that's not exactly the same, but if you can learn how to do things by hand, then the shortcuts don't matter. You can take the shortcuts, but you understand why you're making the shortcut and how to do it the proper way. And so then it's not really a shortcut anymore, you know? So with a spoon die, is it just one smush in the press to make the shape? I really think that it's going to depend on your die. So if you want to know exactly, I think Jack would be able to answer. Mine goes in one, but it will look a fair amount of work to relieve the radius at the edges to not make it fail, because it would tear and displace. Okay. So it takes a few times through is how I understand that. If it's anything like my coffee soup swage, it takes more than one hit. Yeah. I would imagine that it would take more than one hit. Oh, am I out of water? I am out of water. Darn it. I'm going to do another heat, and then I'm going to go and grab a Gatorade from the fridge. I will be back at that point. Once I get the die right, I can do them in one press. Ooh, that's cool. All right, how do we got this? All right, I want to do this direction, and we're going to go like this. Okay, so now we have quite a bit of width on that side, so we still have a bit of thickness too, so we're going to be able to widen the whole thing out, but we've got a good round start to this bottom end, and I think that's really going to help us a lot as we continue to widen things out. So I'm going to go back to the cross peen, and we're going to start in that central area, and I will explain that when we get there, or as to why we're going to do it that way. But more heat is warranted. Okay, changing hammers again. Okay, I am going to grab myself a Gatorade. I will be back in like 30 seconds, maybe a minute, depending if I have one cold or not. I do have one cold. Yay! Okie doke. Liquids. Liquids are important for any blacksmith. Especially in the summer, it is very easy to get dehydrated here in a smithy. So yeah, you won't ever have to tell me to hydrate. I will do that on my own. Yes, it's Gatorade o'clock. Did you hear about the journalist who wrote a story about a massive spoon? It was his big scoop. Amazing. Give me more. I love dad jokes. That's how we upset things, right? We use dad jokes. So yeah. Like I said, it's very important to continue to hydrate while you are forging. I one summer it was like 120 degrees and I was out here forging and I was drinking a lot of soda. But I wasn't drinking enough to keep myself hydrated, and I got kidney stones, and that was very, very unpleasant. So I would not recommend that for anybody. So I do recommend keep yourself hydrated when you're in the smithy. Hydration. All right, let's do another heat. All right. Okay. So we're going to heat this up and we're going to thin out the middle or like the end area there. Because we're getting a lot more stretching on this side than this side. So we're gonna hammer on the edge to kind of thin that out just a little bit, upset it up. I told you I was going to tell you why I'm focusing in the center is because thinning out a central area leaves the ends a lot thicker and they are less likely to crack as they get thin. Sheets or like thinner steel tends to crack as it cools off. And so I want to make sure that everything is nice and hot and I don't want to crisp up those edges. Kidney stones equals 0 fun. Yeah. Ugh, they're awful. 0 of 10, do not recommend. So lots and lots of hydration. In the summer, I tend to drink 3 of those black cups of water, and then I do a Gatorade. And then when I'm done with the Gatorade, I go back to 3 waters. I have had 2 surgeries for kidney stones. Can definitely say 0 of 10. See, I've been lucky enough that I was able to pass all of mine, so I've never had to have surgery for them. But I can imagine it would be awful. Yeah, gotta drink water. Lots and lots of water. How are we doing? I think we're actually doing pretty darn good on this spoon. I do believe that it's not going to be finished until Friday, but we should be able to shape the bowl relatively easily today with the rest of the time for our stream. We've got about a half an hour left. So I'm looking at on Friday, we're probably going to be doming out the bowl on the swage block, and then we are going to see if I can't lengthen the handle just a little bit more so I can get that nice scroll just like we did on the other one. Not sure if I can manage it, but I'll try. We might just have a shorter spoon, you know? Okay, let's do another heat. And I think after this heat, I'm going to move the camera a little so that I can get a nice variety of shots. All right, more heat. Shaping is a little bit slow going, but I think that it's worth it. It's definitely worth taking whatever amount of time you have to in order to shape the things the way you want to. We're gonna move the camera a little bit. I want to make sure that we get a really nice looking finished product, and I don't want to have to grind it in order to make it pretty and finished looking. That's the goal, at least. I need to be patient. I need to work on my patience. I'm pretty bad at being patient overall. You can kind of see it when I take the steel out of the forge, and it's like only like orange. That's because I'm being impatient. I really should wait until it's up to like a nice yellow to a white. You guys tend to see things a little bit hotter than I do. And, you know, so when I take it out and it's orange for you guys, you know, that's really bad. All right, let's try this. And where's my best bet? I think up there, maybe? Nah, we're going to go over there. That's where we're going to go with the inset. Okay. Kind of smoothing it out a little bit. I think we got a pretty decent looking bowl. I think I might actually go back to, we've got lots of thickness. I think I should be good. We are going to go back to our ball peen and see if we can't increase the size of the edges a little bit, like on these bottom area. One more time. Why did the spoon agree with the knife? Because the knife actually had a point. Well then. This month's project is building a 2x72 out of a treadmill. Let me just touch up this SP. Wait, where's my spoon? Is that a reference to something? I don't think I got the reference. That sounds like it's a reference to something. I think it's a belt sander joke. Wait, did you finish the fork? I did. I finished the fork, except for I haven't cleaned it up yet. So we've got the fork right here. It needs a little bit of cleanup. I got to smooth out the inside between the two tines a little bit. And then I need to run it through a wire wheel, kind of make sure that I make it nice and pretty. It's just how fast material gets removed if you're not careful. Oh, yeah. Let me just touch up the bowl of the spoon and it's gone because it's just really, really fast. That makes sense. I don't know why, yeah. I don't know why I didn't get that, but yeah. I did finish the fork, at least for the most part. Like I said, I got to do a little bit of cleanup work on it. And so now we are currently working on a spoon. I ended up screwing up the handle a little bit. I cracked the tail end of it, like the very end of it. So I had to cut that off. So we're getting a short spoon, I think. Or it catches and snags out of your hand and flies across the room. Ooh, I got a story about that. But I will wait until the ad is done because it's kind of a funny and sad story at the same time. A lot of you guys know that I used to work at a jewelry store. And yeah, it involves a bench polisher or like a bench buffer. Spooky. It's scary, man. When things get pulled out of your hand, it's super scary because they just like shoot, smack into the wall or into you or whatever. But yeah, I got a story about that, so I'm gonna tell you guys about my diamond story. Oh yikes! Yeah, I have a diamond story. Safety third. There's a hairpin somewhere in my garage that my wire wheel through. As long as it's not sticking out of the wall, right? As long as it's not sticking out of the wall. That is terrifying, right? It's like a dart, you know? Because like hairpins, they're sharp at the end, and you know, if it flies in the right direction, it could definitely do some damage. Yep. Oh, it's the loop part? Okay. That's a lot better than the tip, the sharp part, you know? Definitely better. All right, I've got plenty of heat on the spoon. So once this ad finishes in the next 10 seconds, I will do our next heat. And then after that, I will tell my story about the diamond and the polisher. All right, let's do another heat. Oh, didn't I say I was gonna change hammers? I did. I think I did. All right. Not bad. I think we're doing pretty good. I think that's a good bowl size for a spoon. We need to thin it out a little bit. It's a little bit thick. Then we're going to do a little bit of work on the handle of the spoon. We've got a little bit of girth right there. I think that we can turn that into more length. All right, back in the forge we go. And then story time. All right, so I used to work at a jewelry store, and after you do work on a ring, I'm just gonna say like a solitaire engagement ring because that's exactly what it was. You have to polish it up so it's nice and pretty and like shiny and it's visually appealing, right? So I had sized this ring and I handed it over to the apprentice, and the apprentice was using the polisher and was polishing the prongs of the solitaire. This guy had 6 prongs, and a polisher, it's like a rag. It's like a stack of like rags about yay thick. And so the end of them, it tends to have like little hairs that kind of hang out. And you put polishing compound on it, and you run the ring through that and it will polish it. So it's like a rotating machine, and it rotates at very high speed. So it's one of those things where you want to make sure that you got your sleeves rolled up so that you don't catch your arm in it and like, you know, rip off your your sleeve or whatever. Anyway, so the apprentices were not supposed to polish the prongs on the big machine because we used the little machine at the bench to polish those. And I had already done that. Well, he, for whatever reason, decided that he wanted to repolish my prongs. And one of my prongs got caught in the rag and it flung behind. They have like it flung behind the thing, and it smashed so hard into the wall that it cracked the diamond. It was not pleasant. It was a pretty big one. It was like half carat. Yeah. Not a good look. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that, you know, it was flung so hard that it cracked the diamond. Holy shnikes, yeah. So most diamonds that you get for in engagement rings these days at your typical like mall jewelry stores, there's flaws inside of them. So they're likely it hit at just the wrong place and it hit a flaw. But yeah, it's still, diamonds are pretty hard. It takes a lot of force to fling a diamond and crack it. So yeah, we both got in big trouble for that one. Even though it wasn't my fault, right? My boss was not happy. We had to replace the diamond. So yeah, be careful when you're using grind or bench grinders and like rotating tools and equipment. Very careful. Do not be stupid with that. All right, let's do another heat. That's bad, chat. That's bad. All right. So we are continuing to thin out the bowl of the spoon. I also want to kind of flatten the edges a little bit. Make sure that nothing's really sticking out weirdly. Need to take care of any lumps or bumps in the edges. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. I think one more heat so we can kind of take care of some of this edge area. And I think we're ready to turn it around and make some more length after that. I think this looks more like a tablespoon than a teaspoon. So yeah, you have to be aware when you send your jewelry into the repair that there's always a chance that it'll get damaged and we'll have to replace it. But yeah, at that point, yeah, we had to replace their diamond. A few years ago, Mikey had his grinder catch a knife he was sharpening and make him go to the hospital on, ooh, that would be awful. That would be awful. I try very hard to be as safe as I possibly can here while I'm streaming for you guys. But I mean, accidents do happen, and you know, you can never be completely safe or in the smithy. Do not mess with buffers or grinders ever. Yeah. I mean, if you can get away with it, you know. I myself have gotten so used to using grinders and buffers like the wheel ones because I did work at the jewelry store. I don't actually hold them or my items all that securely. So if they do catch, they will shoot behind the piece and not at me. Sometimes it's hard to do that though. Sometimes it's hard to do that. All right. Well then. All right, here we go. All right, I'm pretty happy with that bowl shape. So it's probably going to be a nice tablespoon. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pull out the fork and we're going to take a look at it. All right, so we've got a little bit of girth right here in comparison, so we can get a little bit more length. We're probably not going to get enough length though, I'm thinking. So we're going to work on the handle a little bit more. Drop slash drop, or I guess it's exclamation point drop, isn't it? But yeah, that's what we're going to finish up with today. This has me thinking of a long handle spoon for a milkshake. Ooh, milkshake sounds good. We've got some ice cream. Maybe I can make one of those after dinner. That sounds really good. I would be like, Butler, take me to Steak and Shake, and then I could get a professionally made shake. But we just went to Taco Bell yesterday, so I try not to ask for going out to eat 2 days in a row. But yes, milkshake sounds really good. So yeah, what I want to do is I want to continue the motif of the scroll. So we've got a pretty good visual weight on both sides of the handle. And I just don't think that I gave myself quite enough material to do that with this spoon. So I kind of feel like, I'm learning things while I'm checking up on my abilities and, what I'm up to. All right, we've got a little bit of heat. Milkshake spoon, good idea. Yeah. We're almost getting to the point where the local ice cream shops are they're gonna be start opening soon. All right. More heat. Mo heat, mo heat. All right, so for Friday's stream, we are going to dome out the bowl so it becomes a scoop and not just a flat paddle. And we're going to try and put a scroll on the handle. Even though it's going to be shorter, I still want to put a scroll on it so it matches the fork. So we shall see how well that goes. Like I said, I think I can gain a little bit more length, but probably not enough. My milkshake spoon brings all the Smiths to the stream, right? But yeah, so we will be finishing this up on Friday. For the first like couple, maybe like half hour, 20, 30 minutes, something like that. And then I will start the knife. So we will be starting the knife on Friday because this will not take me the full stream. So fingers crossed, we can get the full knife done on Monday because I think that it's going to take me, some time to, I think it's going to take longer than Friday to do the knife. All righty. Let's do another heat. So I think we're going to do one more heat after this guy. So this is one of 2 last heats. If I don't accidentally lock the spoon in here, that'd be great, right? Oh, I'm starting to bend the spoon. Okay. I think I'm pretty good on this section, so we're going to focus in right there and gain a little bit from that. All right, we're getting a little bit of shaping and a little bit of length, so I don't think that's bad. I think they'll end up matching pretty well. So let's move this direction and work on that little transition. Transition. The transitions are actually one of the most important parts to your blacksmith pieces. So taking good care of them and making sure that that they look the way you want them to, and taking extra time to do them, very important. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the shape of this bowl, which, like I said, that is the area that I wanted to improve the most in. And I think that I accomplished it relatively well. So hopefully it works. Hopefully. I just put the swage block away yesterday, and now I got to pull it out again for Friday. Always the best, right? Starting to get a little bit tired, so I'm pretty glad that I'm going to be resting here soon. Alrighty. Okie doke. Let's do this last heat. All right. I think I'm pretty well done for the day with that. Got a little bit of straightening to do. Got to put that scroll on. But I think we're doing all right. I think we're doing all right. So thank you guys so much. Where did you learn to smith? I learned to smith on YouTube. I won't lie. I also learned, I did take a few lessons at the Memphis Metals Museum in Memphis, Tennessee. But yeah, so. But mostly YouTube. I only really took a couple of different weeks of, intensive training, and I learned a lot from those weeks, but most of what I learned was just from practicing here in my shop and watching Alex Steele videos. There's a baby frog hopping around in the loo with me. Well, I mean, I'm not hopping around. Wow, that's crazy. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I will be back on Friday to finish off the spoon and to start working on our knife. So thank you guys so much, and hopefully I'll see you later. All right, let's see. Who are we going to raid off, guys? Who's available? It helps when you don't put a bracket in your address. Let's see. I think we're going to go with Miramac again. I know we end up going to Miramac a lot, but I think he's really interesting. Alrighty. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you on Friday. Bye, guys.